posted a video where I was sharing some information about the Israelites here in the America. And I'm sure some of you probably have the question, if there are so-called Native Americans who look like us, who've always been here, well then who are those dark-skinned people who look like Asians with that straight hair? Of course, archaeologists and anthropologists and geologists have already answered that question. It's just that most people don't know that there's an explanation for those people's presence here in the Americas. Those people came across the Bering Strait and they invaded, basically, from Europe and Eurasia. Mongolians is who they are. And I can show you some pictures of dark-skinned Mongolians, because most times nowadays, because of the way the media is controlled and used to disseminate lies and misinformation and disinformation, the vast majority would probably think of Mongolians as white-skinned Asians. But there are dark-skinned Asians still who live in Mongolia. As a matter of fact, the original so-called Japanese people, the sons of Yavon, they were dark-skinned at one time, and I'll show you some of those pictures as well. See, the problem is we've all been lied to by those who seek to control everything that belongs to us. But there's a video clip I would like to share with you first, and it's a video clip of an interview of a white senator down in Alabama. Now, I don't know if he's still the senator. I haven't checked. But when this interview was conducted, he was the senator of Alabama. Now, the white senator in question got himself into a lot of trouble with other white people because he had the audacity and the gall to let it come out of his face that we so-called black people here in the Americas, North America in particular, are the Aborigine people. Yes, that's what he said. But see, this is the funny thing. When he was questioned about why he would say such a thing, yes, whites wanted to know why he would say such a thing. They were mortified. He said he couldn't explain it. He didn't know where the words came from. And the white who was conducting the interview scoffed and laughed at him and said, well, it came from your subconscious. It reminds me of the scripture in our forefathers' writings where it's written that out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. So he spoke from his heart. He was not able to keep that in. Because white people are known for telling lies. Their entire existence on this planet is founded on lies. Where they come from is founded on lies. They don't tell you the truth. But I'll let you see this video clip, and then we'll talk about those straight-haired, dark-skinned people who you see pictures of often on the internet, in books, and everywhere else. And they tell you those people are the Native Americans, but they aren't. But let's watch this short interview with the senator, and let's see how he tries to explain away his embarrassment at having admitted that we see Aboriginal natives of these Americas.
When I was reading to prepare for this interview, I was quite surprised to see you use the word Aborigines talking about African Americans.
You know, I've dealt with that issue. I've already, talked publicly about that.
And my purpose here today is to say that I'm very sorry, and I apologize to anyone whose feelings were hurt by my comment.
I've made very, very clear I don't know where that comment comes from.
Well, from your subconscious.
Well, I guess. I mean, it's not even a normal thing anyone would say, even if you meant something in a negative fashion. I don't know if you would pull that out. But for me personally, you can't just close down camp and stop trying to do the things that you think are right. Just because somebody, you may give them an unfortunate bit of ammunition, you still got to continue to fight on and do what's best for the state in the long run. And but frankly, it's going to give me the opportunity to talk about things that I may never been able to talk about before.
You mean the bill?
Well, the bill, or talk about race relations issues, things like that. I mean, I have a freedom that a lot of people don't have because of that.
Because you used the word Aborigine.
Because I've been through the fire, and I can talk to people, I can relate to people, I can let them know what kind of person I am, and we can talk about things that sometimes have been a little bit taboo.
So because it allowed you to reach audiences you might not otherwise have reached, do you not regret saying it?
I think it gives me some opportunities. I went and spoke to a group in the city of Birmingham. It was a city councilwoman's community meeting probably 95% African American, and because of, things that I regret, offhand remark I should not have made.
Using the word Aborigines.
Right, offhand remark I should not have made.
Which you don't want to say.
Yeah, I know better.
100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land.
In the heart of the Brazilian wilderness lies a prehistoric rock shelter, decorated with thousands of strange paintings. South American archaeologists are finding unusual human remains. The skulls aren't European, but they aren't American Indian either. They belong to none of the prehistoric races known to have set foot in the New World. These skulls are as old as the Ice Age. So who were these first people to discover the Americas? And what became of them? Did they all disappear? Or did some of them survive? Most of the people who live in northeastern Brazil today are descended from European settlers and African slaves. But these ancestral groups arrived in Brazil just 500 years ago. When the Portuguese first discovered Brazil, they found that Indians were already here. Scientists today can tell precisely when they arrived and from where. All native peoples in South and North America belong to a racial type known as Mongoloid. They're descended from the ancient peoples of Siberia. During the Ice Age, 12,000 years ago, there was a land bridge between Siberia and Alaska. Mongoloid peoples were the first to enter the New World, or so experts thought. The Brazilian finds point to a very different story of the discovery of the Americas. The paintings on these rock shelters are much older than the Indians. Here, hunters chased giant armadillos, an animal that flourished during the Ice Age, long before the arrival of the Indians. There's a playful feel to many of the scenes. Here, a group of men are standing on each other's shoulders, just like a circus act. And here, a rare romantic moment. The scenes conjure up a lost world of innocence. How long ago was this primeval paradise? French archaeologists have just finished digging in Pedra Furada, the largest of the rock shelters. Their aim was to go back in time to a period well before the arrival of American Indians. Every foot they dug took them thousands of years back into prehistory. When they reached layers 40,000 years old, they found these. Pieces of quartzite that look remarkably like stone tools. The edges on one side of the stones were flaked off. Were these stones shaped into cutting tools by human hands? If so, then the history of the discovery of the Americas would have to be rewritten. But if people had been here before the American Indians, surely there would be other traces of their presence. The archaeologists continued to dig, down to depths 50,000 years old. And then they found this. Fragments of animal bone and charcoal. For Anne-Marie Passy, one of the archaeologists involved in the dig, these fragments were proof of human occupation.
We
found structures shaped like hearths. Next to the charcoal, depending on the period, we sometimes found food leftovers of animals they may have eaten.
The Brazilian finds show that the New World was discovered tens of thousands of years earlier than previously believed, certainly well before the time of the American Indians. But who were these pioneers? A much earlier wave of Mongoloids, or another race altogether? Clues to the identity of the first Americans are emerging in rock shelters in the northeast and southeast of Brazil. Archaeologists there have recently unearthed human remains. Prehistoric skulls were found buried in layers of soil 9,000 to 12,000 years old. They are the oldest skulls in the Americas. And this is the oldest of them all. The skull of a young woman nicknamed Luthia by scientists. Can she tell us who the first Americans were? Walter Neves is a physical anthropologist at Sao Paulo University in Brazil. He has been using a standard and reliable archaeological measure, the shape of the skull, to find out what race she belonged to.
91.
He fully expected Luthia to be a Mongoloid, an ancestor of the American Indians.
91.
But then he fed the measurements into the computer.
When we started running the computer and seeing the results, it was amazing because we realized that the statistics, the quantitative analysis we were doing was not showing these people to be Mongoloid. In fact, the analysis was showing these people was anything except Mongoloid.
So who was Luthia? And where did she come from? To find out, the skull was taken to a hospital in Rio de Janeiro to begin the process of reconstructing her face. The first stage was to make a three-dimensional CAT scan of Luthia's skull in order to build a replica. The cast was then given to Richard Neve of the University of Manchester in England, one of the world's leading forensic artists, to recreate her features.
That, to me, is a Negroid face that has all the features you associate with a Negroid face. The proportions of the face, it doesn't say anything about it being Mongoloid.
Luthia belongs to a race found historically along the rim